I did my project on the book The Smarter Screen, Surprising Ways to Influence and Improve Online Behavior. The industry I chose was retail, specifically online retail shopping on stores such as Amazon. The mismatch between the physical screen and our mental screen isn't going away, and if anything, it's getting worse by the day. Here are a few questions every digital architect should ask themselves to ensure they aren't overwhelming their users by accident. Have you thought about the limitations of attention when designing the layout of your website? If the magical number of the mind is less than 4, then why do most sites fill our screen with dozens of options? Amazon, for instance, provides images of 60 different products on a 27-inch monitor. Indeed, one can fit a lot of information on a huge physical screen, but we have to remember the constraints of our much smaller mental screen. Have you factored in the intentional environment? Our mental screen shrinks when we attend to multiple tasks. One obvious suggestion: GPS screens in cars should adjust the amount of information displayed to our driving speed. When we are stopped at a red light, the screen can be fully functional, but if we're on the highway perhaps, it should display nothing but the appropriate exit. Have you looked for ways to compress information? The suggestion here is to consider using visuals instead of words whenever possible. And have you considered ways to boost attention? As we'll discuss later, personalized videos grab a lot more attention than just standard text formats. And have you done a whiteboard exercise? Nobody sets out to create an overly complicated website that overwhelms users. Rather, such sites evolve that way over time as new features, links, and multimedia effects are gradually added. Unfortunately, we often become blind to the drawbacks of these additions as we fall for the status quo bias. Thus, it's important to occasionally conduct a whiteboard exercise and design a new site that focuses only on the essential information. Notice that the best websites, such as Google, always try to strip away everything but the essential. For too long, aesthetics has been dismissed as a superficial concern. This is a mistake. As the latest research demonstrates, the visual appeal of a website is tied up with far weightier issues, such as functionality and trustworthiness. Here are a few questions to help you get the most out of a website's design. Have you fast tested your site? Remember, you have only 50 milliseconds to impress your visitors. Flash your website to people for a very short period of time, and then ask for their opinion. And their opinion is the one that matters. Have you considered the implications of the halo effect? Perhaps the best way to increase the perceived usability and trustworthiness of your site is to make it prettier. Have you taken the asymmetric nature of complexity into account? It's always better to err on the side of simplicity. And who are your users? Remember that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and that different demographics prefer different website styles. Is it time to personalize that look of your website and app? The digital age has likely amplified the importance of our visual biases. Unless you are taking these perceptual habits into account, you are missing a powerful opportunity to increase the impact of your information. After all, it's possible to make people look, but it's much better to be where they're already looking. To help maximize the opportunities and minimize the risks, here's the following list of guiding questions. Have you considered the middle bias? Just as items in the center are more likely to be chosen on a supermarket shelf, so does the placement of items on the screen dramatically affect our choices. For example, many people will select a snack they don't care for merely because it's in the middle of the screen. Same goes for items that you'll see on Amazon, Etsy, eBay, any retail store. Have you considered the top left bias? In situations where middle choices doesn't exist, say a screen divided into a 2x2 matrix, our eyes gravitate toward the top left cell. Have you considered potential cultural differences and display biases? For instance, if someone's native language is Hebrew, they read from right to left. Have you considered cold spots? There are hot spots on the screen, but there are also cold spots. In the battleship game, for example, you want to hide your ships in the cold spots because they are 6 times less likely to be selected than in the middle of the screen. Of course, if you're an online retailer, then you don't want your high margin items to be placed in the cold spots, as that will make them much less likely to be chosen. Have you considered the possibility that visual biases might be enhanced on screens? In one study, the vast majority of radiologists missed a gorilla on CT scans they reviewed on screens. This might not have been missed so frequently on an old-fashioned film, but obviously we need more research to test that. And have you considered the blind spots generated by zooming in? If you're an intelligent analyst searching for terrorists, you might be tempted to zoom in, but that means that a lot of the battlefield is being pushed to the edges, which are often our blind spots. You must think carefully about how you take that snapshot of the battlefield, if only to ensure that you are not missing critical intelligence. And have you considered the horizontal bias? Our retina is programmed to search the world horizontally. As a result, any information displayed in rows receives greater decision weight than information displayed in columns. And lastly, have you factored in decision speed? The faster we search and choose, the more we attempt to multitask, the stronger our visual biases are. Acrostics are mnemonic devices in which the first letter in each line spells out a word. They're a useful memory compression device, helping the brain recall a complex process with a single cue. Below are 7 behavioral principles as an acrostic for the word digital. D. Dosage. Are you delivering too much feedback? Don't become noise. I. Are you making personalization easy? Mirrors should be effortless. G. Good. Is your feedback too negative? If so, look for opportunities to offer up positive suggestions. I. Intuitive. Are you taking advantage of the effect heuristic? We are intuitively drawn to information that triggers an emotion. T. Timing. Are you delivering your feedback at the most effective possible moment? A. Actionable. Do people know how to react to your feedback? Does it come with a plan for improvement? And lastly, L. Learning. Are you measuring the outcome of your feedback? Is it improving behavior? Never underestimate the uncertainty involved when trying to change human behavior. The digital world tends to assume that high levels of fluency are always better. When in doubt, make it easy. But the psychological literature suggests that the deliberate use of disfluency can actually be quite helpful, at least when it comes to making us think more carefully about what's on the screen. Before you decide on the ideal level of fluency, it's important to establish the goal of your digital information. Do you want people to complete a transaction or make a quick purchase? Do you want people to remember what they read? Do you want people to reflect on the information, as in the case of mortgage rates or cigarette warnings? For retail stores such as Amazon, you want people to complete a transaction or make a quick purchase. In this case, high levels of fluency are ideal. Make the process as easy as possible. Are you leveraging the different types of disfluency? Have you been using visual disfluency? You might begin with font changes. Try using unfamiliar typefaces, but should also consider new layouts. Find ways to make the eyes work a little bit harder. Have you considered cognitive disfluency? Examples include using fancy words. Have you prescribed the right dosage of disfluency? The balance is essential, and excessive ease might not grab attention, but too much difficulty can turn people away. In addition, eye tracking data might help pinpoint places where disfluency can be introduced to boost attention and reflection. Focus on the part of the screen that the eyes skim over. Personalization is one of the most important principles to keep in mind when providing information or offering choices to customers. The mind is an information processing machine, but it is drawn to information that is tailored for its unique preferences, interests, history, and even location. Here are a few questions to think about when trying to leverage the tools of digital personalization. Are you using all the relevant data available to you? In particular, what do you know about your customers or clients, and what can you do with it to personalize their experience? For example, you might know when a customer's birthday is, so when it's a birthday, you send them a happy birthday, and they might be likely to make a purchase on your site, one such as Amazon. Have you considered the fine line between personalization and violations of privacy? It is important to set a balanced approach. Too much digital personalization can also come off as creepy. Are you personalizing more than the content? For example, the timing of messages can play a big role in their effectiveness, just as we mentioned with birthdays, holidays. Are you leveraging new technologies to boost the effectiveness of personalization? Consider personalized videos as well as new visualization techniques. For example, people are willing to save more for retirement if they see a digital rendering of their older self. Do you need more than one website? Should you, for example, consider a website for the morning, evening, and late night? Or should you set different websites for different clients, say a quick version for those with limited attention and a deep version for those who have more attention and interest in that particular topic? Are you investing enough in digital personalization? Given the remarkable return on investment, should you spend more on personalization? And are you aiming high enough with your digital personalization strategy? Our newfound ability to analyze huge amounts of data is enabling new forms of personalization. Amazon, for example, has filed a patent for an algorithm that allows the company to ship products before consumers even place their orders. That might seem crazy now, but it wasn't so long ago that we also would have laughed at the possibility of an algorithm telling us what movies we should watch. In the digital age, we have more choices than ever before, and we might also be choosing worse than ever before. Your online shelf might have thousands of options, but have you given consumers the tools to find a suitable consideration set of, say, 4 alternatives? Have you considered the easy middle bias when setting the size of the consideration set? A consideration set of 3 or 5 options might steer people toward the middle option, whereas a consideration set of 4 options will likely trigger more thinking about trade-offs. One useful approach to getting to a manageable consideration set involves the use of categories. Have you tried personalized categories? The digital environment offers many more ways to slice the shelf, which could be tailored to each individual. Are you too worried about the number of clicks required during the decision-making process? While fewer clicks is preferable, the more critical insight is to make the clicks useful. Have you considered choice tournaments to reduce the options from 16 to 4? Such tournaments can be especially helpful if the alternatives involve several different variables and trade-offs. Are you managing regret? Research shows that marking unattractive options as declined can enhance choice closure. It's a very low-cost way to increase consumer satisfaction. Are you also considering attribute overload? Cognitive overload isn't caused only by the number of options. It can also be triggered by the number and complexity of attributes. Displaying dozens of features of each healthcare plan, for instance, could result in confused users, even if the consideration set is just 3 or 4 options. In conclusion, our digital devices make it easy to distract ourselves with constant updates. The inbox is never still. But this frenetic pace makes it even more important that we find the time to reflect on big, difficult questions. What should you be asking yourself that you're not?